How do you know when you have become more secure in your attachment style, and what does it mean to date in a secure way? So, learning to recognize when you are becoming more secure typically starts by recognizing when you are feeling insecure and a burgeoning desire to feel more comfort and less discomfort, more clarity and less confusion, more connection and less isolation, more acknowledgement and less dismissal, more optimism instead of cynicism, and more pleasure and less pain. To move from a more insecure position to a more secure position is not the same thing as eliminating all your insecurities. Okay. Secure people have anxieties and insecurities too. The difference is that they are not over identified with the inflated meanings and the negative stories that insecure people tell themselves when their esteem is threatened. So, in an argument, for example, an insecure person might misinterpret or villainize the intentions of their partner. They may feel a negative self story, feed a negative self story to an exaggerated and kind of disproportionate degree. And so the inner monologue might sound something like, why can't they see how much they're hurting me? They must be intentionally trying to make me feel small and insignificant. It's like they enjoy pushing my buttons and seeing me suffer. I'll never be good enough for them. I'm just a burden in their life and they probably regret being with me, right? So these are distorted thoughts and they can intensify the insecurity and escalate a conflict, which leads to a breakdown in communication and certainly an emotional connection. Now, in contrast, in an argument, a secure person might take a step back and try to understand their partner's perspective before jumping to those big conclusions. They would remind themselves that their partner's actions or words may not be a deliberate attack, but could stem from frustrations or some kind of miscommunication. Instead of assuming the worst, they will assume the best of their partner and give their partner the benefit of the doubt and approach the situation with a sense of empathy and compassion. So they might raise their voice, but they're not going to attack your character. They might ask for space, but they're going to tell you when you can expect to see or hear from them again. They might be angry with you in the moment, but they're not going to withdraw their love or threaten to leave you after every argument. And they're not going to ignore the argument or pretend like it never happened. Instead, they're going to seek repair and try to resolve the issue. So by fostering this climate of trust, understanding, and mutual support, a secure person can navigate those disagreements in a healthier and a more constructive way. Okay. So let me know in the comments there if any of this is ringing true for you, or if you're starting to get a picture of what secure attachment might look like. So how do we start to feel more secure? Well, in my Hungry Love Masterclass, which we host twice a year and which is currently open for enrollment, links in the caption of this video, there's 4 steps to this process, and I want to tell you a little bit more about that. So in the first step, or in stage 1, I call this clarifying desire. And we recognize how your wants and desires, usually when we are in an insecure position, are being led by fear. And so in this stage, the challenge is to learn how to embrace our fears as a gift and a road sign, pointing us towards a larger spiritual lesson and curriculum in love. And so once we confront the reality of that spiritual lesson for us, there's usually a desperate need for clarity. And so in the middle of this struggle, we may avoid surrendering what we thought we wanted, our attachment to what we thought we wanted, because we're really scared to be truly vulnerable or open up on that soul deep level. And so at this stage, growth is going to feel a little bit like it's stalled out, that all the right things haven't been working, right? But we are getting really clear on what it is that we want. And that is a crucial first step. Okay. Now, in the second step, what I call stage 2, I call this identifying the root pain. Now, this new knowledge from the first stage, right? New knowledge from the first stage, understanding from the first stage, it's going to provide some relief in having found a starting point and getting clear direction on what it is you really want and choosing that direction. However, there may be feelings of grief now in realizing the depth of the spiritual lesson that you're being called to learn. And so in this stage, you kind of need to have faith that the healing process has begun and it is evolving as it should be. And it is doing so sometimes even behind the scenes without any efforting from you. And even if you experience discomfort, even if you are experiencing discomfort through that emotional release and integration, okay? So as a result, we are challenged to avoid kind of reverting back to old attachments, old ego attachments or ego defenses, and clinging to things like short-term escapes for short-term relief. Because if we can kind of lean in a little bit and weather the storm, then that stalled out growth becomes catalyzed. Okay. And so the root pain itself, it is an inner conflict that you experience in different guises and in different situations that usually functions as a result of as well as a catalyst for your life theme. Okay. Now, in my model, we typically have a primary and a secondary life theme, and they are set in opposition to one another, so that enough contrast or conflict is created so that there is a ripe context in which spiritual growth can occur, okay, in human form, right? So for example, maybe your primary theme is humanitarian, but your secondary theme is loner. So the challenge of the secondary theme now is not to look at it as a burden, but to recognize it and respect it as an aspect of yourself that is intended to galvanize growth. Much more deep, and the purpose of galvanizing growth is so that we understand the human condition much more deeply. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Right? Now, our exiled parts, or what we more commonly call the inner child, is often in conversation with this root pain, right? This life theme, and in many ways informs how it's going to evolve that life theme. So learning how to unburden and integrate that inner child and other aspects of ourselves is part of that spiritual and evolutionary process. Okay. Now the challenge in this stage, of course, is being willing to sit with those uncomfortable feelings and let go of ideas of who we think we are. Also grieving things that we never allowed ourselves to grieve before. Then we move on to the third step, or the third stage. And this is about releasing and reframing our energetic blocks. So after we release that root pain, we identify and release that root pain, you're going to be feeling really excited about the shifts that have occurred, and likely faster than you expected. And so there's a tendency to want to push for more success and more gains, like right away. So at this stage, more than ever, there's a need for patience, realizing that the healing momentum cannot be rushed, and that the harder you try, the quicker your gains are going to start to slip through your fingers, because you're going to slip back into ego attachments. And so the challenge is to avoid burning out. You want to try to instead relax and to ride the wave of the stage, trusting that your growth is just naturally and effortlessly unfolding and gaining momentum. And so arriving now at the next step, stage 4, I call this installation. You're much more intentional, and you're allowing and you are conscientious of the healing process. You know now what tools work for you in accessing your own inner wisdom and personal authority and energy patterns. And remaining consistent with the practices that you have developed, this is what's really going to allow you to feel more secure within yourself and within your relationships, while sustaining your sense of spiritual connection. And so this allows you to have much more agency, choice, and control over the beliefs and the energy patterns that you're going to install on an embodied level and in your subconscious mind, so that you can manifest the life that you want. And so if you can avoid slipping into things like spiritual bypassing, which is a transference of personal authority and dependency to things like dogma or spiritual and religious institutions, you can avoid that, then growth in this stage is very personal, and it's long-lasting and sustaining, okay? So feelings of fear and relief tend to evolve into feelings of excitement and ecstatic joy. And you're able to experience a wide range of human emotion while enjoying those more secure and satisfying relationships. Now, I just want to offer some final thoughts on this particular question because it's a great question and I think it deserves a little recap here. I want you to just remember that the journey towards secure attachment and dating in a secure way is a process that requires self-reflection, self-awareness, and intentionally engaging with personal growth. So it starts with recognizing that when you feel insecure and it really means that you are having a genuine desire for more, right? More comfort, more clarity, more connection, and more fulfillment in your relationships. And so as you embark on that journey for more, remember to be patient with yourself, kind, give yourself a little grace. Okay? It's normal to encounter challenges and setbacks along the way. The important thing is to remember that you want to remain committed to your growth process. Also, to seek out support and resources that aid you in developing that secure attachment. Remember, learning to meet your own needs includes accessing supportive people, right? Finding people to connect to. And when you develop that sense of self-awareness and you identify those root pains and release the energetic blocks around them and reframe your limiting beliefs, now you're starting to gradually cultivate that sense of security, which is just changing your proximity, your orientation towards your own insecurities. It's not eliminating them, it's changing your relationship to them, okay? And once you arrive at that place, dating and relationships, it's going to be filled with confidence, authenticity, and open-heartedness. It's just going to flow much more easily for you, right? And I 100% believe that you have the power to create those healthy relationships by embracing your own self-worth, communicating effectively, setting those boundaries, and choosing partners that really align with your values and your priorities, right? Trust the process. Trust the process. Have faith in your own growth. And remember that you do deserve the loving and secure relationships that you desire. Okay. So I hope that that was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments if you are resonating with this content. I take all comments and feedback into consideration when creating more segments like this. Also, remember to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I put out videos once a week and I wouldn't want you to miss out.